What is up, guys? I'm Rick Kakis, and today we are going to be showcasing an exotic weapon that was frankly floating around the F tier. This thing was not seeing any PvE play and some extremely niche PvP play, but it really wasn't the part of any sort of meta whatsoever. But just this season, with Season of the Splicer, it got a new exotic catalyst, and that has propelled it all the way up to the A and frankly, arguably the S tier. And the more people that try this thing when it's fully masterworked, the more people are going to realize just how incredible this weapon is, and so let's get started. Now, that weapon is, of course, the Deathbringer Exotic Rocket Launcher. By the way, if you want to get one yourself, go ahead and check out my guide on how to acquire it. That's going to be linked up above, all the way back from when it was introduced in Shadow Keep. But the Deathbringer is frankly one of the most unique and weird exotic weapons in the entire game. Its intrinsic perk is Dark Deliverance, fires remotely detonated projectiles that drop void orbs on combatants. So you're going to, press the trigger to fire the weapon and hold the trigger, and then when you release it, it's going to explode midair and rain down additional projectiles. But it also has another intrinsic trait, Dark Descent. The further a void orb falls, the more powerful its detonator becomes. Now, here's the interesting thing. The Deathbringer has actually always been, even before the recent rocket launcher buff, one of the highest damage weapons in the game, and that's if you can trigger Dark Descent to its maximum potential. So if you get all of those void projectiles to fall their maximum distance and they all explode on a target, you're gonna do an insane amount of damage. So why wasn't this thing being used? Well, it's because you can set that up in a controlled environment in the perfect loss sector, and it looks really good in a thumbnail that shows the DPS, but in a practical in-game scenario, that's almost impossible to set up. That never happens. The void orbs go all around the place, they hit different enemies. It's really hard to trigger Dark Descent's maximum damage value. And by the way, you can actually tell when this is happening, because if the void projectiles are doing their max damage, they'll actually appear yellow on your screen. As you can see right here, if you don't let them fall very much, you get white numbers, and if you do let them fall like all the way, some of them will turn yellow, even though I'm not applying any debuff in these clips. Like, this is clearly just the Deathbringer by itself, and that gives you, a great visual example of how far these projectiles have to fall before they're triggering Dark Descent's max damage. So this is where the exotic catalyst comes into play. Now, you're going to get it just from kind of random activities. As you can see, the very first strike I did for this season, I got the Deathbringer Catalyst. Now, once you do get it, you're going to have to get a bunch of kills with the Deathbringer. Frankly, you could just go out and do this. Like, it's not the hardest weapon to get kills with, but if you want to complete this really efficiently, simply wish to Shirochi, and the wish you're seeing on screen right here is the one you have to use, and then you're going to teleport there, and there's going to be, so many Shadow Thralls to kill. You'll get it in no time. Now, once you do have this catalyst complete, it's going to say increases how quickly Dark Descent reaches its full potential. That's it. That's all it says. No increase to damage, no increased reserve ammo. So if that's all it does, why am I fawning over this weapon? Well, it's really just the nature of how the Deathbringer works. That is exactly the change this weapon needed. And you can really see the difference when I test it against Kali. So this is the before. I haven't masterworked this weapon yet, and as you can see, I'm simply trying to get the max damage numbers against Kali. It's really hard to do. You're gonna see I'm missing a lot, but again, that's the nature of this weapon. And pay attention to this shot right here. I'm shooting pretty far above her head, and as you can see, I still get some white numbers. So I'm right at the edge of how high I need to be for Dark Descent to trigger its maximum value. And in total, I get 146,000 damage with 5 shots. So then I put the catalyst on and I do that same thing again. I'm trying to trigger Dark Descent's maximum value. I'm trying to go for those yellow numbers. And now, as you can see, I now get those yellow numbers when shooting nowhere near as far above Callie's head, right? Like, yes, I get a couple of white numbers because I'm right at that edge, but really importantly, I can shoot under this kind of big pillar here, and it just leads to a lot of different things, and the damage is now 224,000 damage. So not only does that mean it's just easier to use, but also it just means that more projectiles are hitting. Technically, the projectiles aren't doing more damage, but actually in-game, they might as well be, because you have to shoot so much less above a target. The projectiles will actually trigger their tracking so much more often, and you'll get so many more hits on that target. But another important thing to keep in mind is that even though the max damage hasn't increased, because they scale up faster, all of that in-between damage will be higher than it was previously. And you can actually see that in this example. I'm direct impacting Callie 3 times with the pre-Masterworked weapon, and as you can see, I get 83,000 damage, and then I use the Masterworked version, and now suddenly I'm getting over 100,000 damage. So like, how does that happen? Well, firstly, it's because this weapon is so darn weird, and there are going to be some variations in testing. It's just, again, the nature of this weapon. But when it spawns, an orb, and it just loops around and still gives me a white number, that travel distance, because it's scaling up quicker, it will just inflict more damage than it would have previously. So, even though the catalyst just says Dark Descent triggers faster, it might as well say significantly increased damage and tracking, because now you don't have to shoot miles above targets' heads just to get your max DPS. And when I was using the Masterwork Deathbringer in activities like Override, oh my goodness, it was fantastic. Like, it single-handedly, one shot, wipes out an entire spawning wave of enemies. And when you do find those bigger enemies, those boss enemies, and you can put a well-placed shot right above their head, you will see those yellow numbers more often than not. You will get your max damage potential. And when all the projectiles do land, holy crap, you do so much damage for a single rocket launcher shot. And rocket launchers are super meta right now after the buff. A lot of people have great rolls with, auto-loading and lasting impression or cluster bomb. Heck, even Vorpal Weapon is on the sleep list. There are so many good rockets out there, and this, frankly, is one of them. If you like using rockets, definitely get the Catalyst, level it up, and give the Deathbringer a try, because one of the best parts about using rockets is that they're extremely ammo efficient. Even a Finder Brick, if you have double rocket launcher scavenger, which by the way is in your artifact mod and only costs 1 energy this season, but that's going to give you 3 rockets back. 3 rockets of Deathbringer can do so much more damage, can kill so many more enemies than, a heavy grenade launcher or something like that. It's not even close. So definitely this is one of the biggest improvements I've ever seen a Catalyst give to an exotic weapon. Guys, absolutely, this is worth trying out. And so that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickKakis. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.